Welcome, everyone, to a special edition of the Industry in Transition podcast. I'm very happy to have Greg Benaz, my guest from Stewart Partners, with me. Thanks for being here, Greg. We're in my office, so you get to see a different part of the office, which is fun. But Greg was at our conference, our Advisors to Watch conference in New York, and he gave a great presentation on marketing for financial advisors. And I thought it was good enough that we ought to hear it again, or try to go, or give him a little more time to sort of go into some details about it. So it also struck me that this is the right time to be talking about this, Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. It's great visiting you out here in Middleburg. The conference, the summit, I thought was great because I had a chance to not just see some familiar faces, but meet some new ones. And marketing seemed to be a topic that we don't talk about much lately. And there's still the age-old questions. How much time do I devote to marketing? How does it really impact what I do? Is compliance going to accept everything we do?
And that used to be the big question, right?
Yeah.
Can we even do it, right? And does compliance, we used to worry constantly about, can I do this? Can I use social media? Can I use this? And it always seems so restrictive.
It was for a period of time. And now when you start to think about, well, what other restrictions are out there? And it's, do not call lists and email and even texting spam we get these days. So it's becoming a challenge.
Yeah.
And when you think about marketing in general, what I like to tell partners, teams, advisors is, before you start in with a full agenda, there's a number of questions you have to ask, and we'll go over those, top 7 or so questions, but or items of concern, I should say. But the idea is, think about marketing in today's environment. Am I looking to brand what I do or my identity, or am I looking to build my practice?
Two very different things.
Two very different things, two very different lanes. And before many of us remember the 1995 Pizza Hut commercial with Deion Sanders, where I want to do both, understand that you can't, ultimately these lanes do merge. And the both side of the equation, which I'll address very quickly, is if you say I want to do both, you get into that time and energy commitment, which is a big concern. But you have to do the building and the communication first, the branding and communication first, and the build second. You can't put the build priority or the build strategy in place if you don't have all the digitized strategy put in place.
Right. And that starts with your website, starts with what?
It starts with, looking at a couple of things. Number one, you have to be concerned with how I define who I am and what I do. And I don't mean the mission statement. I mean articulating your values, defining, who you are, what you do, what target market you might want to be driving towards. But even before any of that, there's a number of questions in marketing now in today's world we have to ask. Number one, and I think the most important one, is whether I'm an independent, whether I'm in a wirehouse or a bank or regional, what will the compliance oversight group or supervision group allow me to do? And I think you got
to understand it.
You do. You have to know what you're allowed to do, because honestly, you can survive in either environment. It doesn't matter where you are. You just have to know what's permitted. Some places might have more flexibility, some places might have less, but every place has a list, a menu of options. Some are free, some are with a fee, but what I can do. So compliance was always the first thing that you have to ask or understand, at least. The second thing was, and I mentioned it earlier, whether I'm a bank or an independent, what are my options? What's available to me? The third, I would say, is the time and energy you're going to commit to this. You can't just do a set it and forget it.
It's got to be part of your overall plan, right? So and also I would think how you're going to use this marketing. In other words, if this marketing is going to help grow, brand, build my business, I should allot a reasonable amount of time for it. If it's just to make things pretty, it's a waste of time.
No, absolutely. And the time and commitment part of it, especially for the folks who said, I want to do both, you have to decide. I mean, is this something you're going to do yourself? You're going to have someone on the team or group be devoted towards this strategy and define it.
So if you have a good young person who can do the social media stuff, and also you got to think about what's your return on investment in time for us.
Correct. And the investment was the next one. It's how much am I going to have available to me right out of the gate or right out of the box? Or am I going to invest in some premium services?
Right.
And again, it doesn't matter where you are. There's always some things you can do, some things that you're going to have to invest and pay closer attention to. The third, the next item I actually would say is what kind of resources you're going to devote to this. We talked about capital, but there are options available, whether you're at a big firm or whether you're independent. You can go to a marketing site on the intranet, find out what's available to you. But if you're independent, you might want to leverage the opportunity or reach out to, say, a virtual CMO.
Right.
If you're just a team, say in Wichita, Kansas, and you don't have all the resources available to you as a big firm, you're going to have to explore the opportunities with coaches or other marketing firms and say, hey, we would like to outsource some of this.
Right.
And that was a big concern. The other one that I told people to me at the conference to pay close attention to was the setting goals and making sure you know how to measure your results. Everything today in digital marketing world is measurable.
Yep.
Hits on websites, time spent on social media pages,
LinkedIn,
redirect campaigns,
Facebook.
everything,
Yeah.
hits, connectivity, even referrals are now done through a digitized process. And even you have matchmaking campaigns. There are firms out there that will, send you referrals based on a certain list of criteria.
Right.
So it's a different world. And then finally, the last thing I
But
would
there's a
say,
cost associated with all that, and you got to figure out where.
there can be,
Yeah.
and there are other times there are firm-related resources around them.
Yeah.
The final one I would say before we get into the brand and build is always innovate. It's the one area that I think didn't used to be very bold and aggressive, but now can be. You can look at things such as digital campaigns, social media strategies. We're going to talk about social media in a second, but you think about social media in general, Tony. On LinkedIn, there's 700 million users. Okay, that's worldwide. Social media in general. I saw a statistic at the beginning of this year that the average social media user still spends 2.5 hours on social media. They use 7 different platforms a month. Excuse me. It's amazing to see just how much it's grown, but how much it's also come into our industry. And when you think about
and now we can use it.
And now we can use it.
Yeah.
And when you think about something like LinkedIn, and with the exception of entertainers and some, sports related activities, nearly every executive or every professional in some way, shape, or form, with the exception of retirees in some cases, is on LinkedIn in some way.
Yeah.
And what's on LinkedIn? My name, my address, my contact information, where I worked, my history, my whole resume, my interests, my contact information. My whole life is on there, plus things I'm posting that are relevant to me in my professional life. So because that information is there, trying to cold call like people did 20, 30, 40 years ago and hoping to get someone not eating dinner, you can now find things that are relevant and when they're actually posting things and use that to your advantage. So it's a pretty different world.
Yeah, it's a good tool. And I think interesting, like as we mentioned cold calling a bunch of times. I remember doing that in a bullpen, and some guys were good at it, some guys weren't, and some guys were aggressive, and some guys were sort of more laid back. But it was important to develop your own style with doing it. And if you were successful, if you stayed in your lane, worked hard, but did what you were comfortable with.
Well, make no mistake, in today's digital marketing world, you still have to have that style. You still have to have that talent or skill set that says, okay, now I've got a window of opportunity. What do I do with it?
Right.
Because now I can find out where my universe of, say, C-suite executives within a 200-mile radius that have been at a company for more than 10 years with over 100 employees. I can run that list.
Yeah.
And now I could say, these are my prospects. Now, when do I find a window of opportunity? Well, there are certain digitized prospecting tools that will show you these. You get an alert when they change a job. You get an alert when they're posting something relevant, or if they have an interest or a similar college. All that stuff is now available to you at your fingertips. You have to know what to do with it.
Well, and speaking of that, before our time goes out, I want to go through, you have two good top
Yeah.
10 lists, and then it was a top 10 on, one was building and one was branding.
So real quick, I'll go through the branding list, but I'll give you a little bit more specifics as I wasn't able to do at the conference. The first one was on the brand side, and I'll refer to the list and go in order because I like to jump around typically, but
And we'll show this on, hopefully you're seeing this on the screen.
Yeah. the first one was a who we are. So on the brand side and the brand lane, you want to define digitally who you are. And I don't mean a mission statement, Tony. And I also don't mean go look up the Google definition of what a financial planner does. I do comprehensive financial planning of assets and liabilities. No, you don't want to do that. So define what your values are, what you do, what your client service model are, make it unique. And this is where you can really leverage the talent or skill sets of someone that's sometimes even marketing not within our industry. They give you different ideas and thoughts. The second one was, and this is really big in today's day and age, and that's the digitize your profile side of the equation. And what I mean by that is, I mean, everything from social media to website. Website's always your hub, and I'll talk about that in a second. But you know, you've got other video concepts, you got media appearances.
Right.
You know, you feature leaders within the industry, but you also have advisors.
Yeah.
Your whole summit was built around the advisor to watch. So what makes them unique? The credentials are important too. And what I like about this too is we were just talking before we did this. You know, we're in a post-COVID environment.
Yeah.
And you talk about digitizing the entire profile. Well, Zoom has come into our lives on how we communicate. Well, it's here to stay. And the idea with Zoom is if you don't get it right, you got to pay attention to a number of things. Your background, your lighting, your audio, background noise, distractions. Get to know this, get to know the platform, understand that there's a certain etiquette involved. And when you're communicating with the clients, make sure that you're not one of the people where they're always talking about everyone's, oh, did you hear the dog barking the last 15 minutes of the conversation?
But be prepared to deal with it if it does happen.
It does
You gotta
happen,
make
but,
light of it at some point.
but be concerned, try to put yourself in an
Might
environment where
happen
you
here.
can, right. The third one was, you know, communicate, listen, effective and often. There's newsletters now, there's email campaigns, there's video options. The whole part of branding is making sure you're getting your story out there and getting out there digitally.
Engagement. So,
Correct.
being engaged and getting people, you know, to keep clicking on your stuff.
The fourth item I have on here is perspective, advisor perspective, media engagement, and appearances. It's important, I think, for today's modern day advisor to have a perspective on something. Leverage video, get in front of the media, reach out to even local or national media and write things, write content or do video. You don't have to, but if you're something that you're interested in and you want to brand yourself, these are great avenues to get in front of a lot of people and also show your target audience.
And media companies are always looking for content.
Correct.
They're looking for good content from an expert. So set yourself up as an expert and, you know, take advantage of it.
Yeah, the recognition side, which is my fifth item, I always like to tell people, you know, if you got a bunch of letters behind your name, or if you're being recognized as a best in state, or even if your RIA is you know, best places to work, always make sure you're highlighting this. This is very important information when your existing clients as well as prospects are looking you up. You know, I didn't say at the beginning of this because I put my phone away, but I always hold up my phone and I talk about the digitizing your profile and say, you know, I hold up my phone and say, this is the way people are looking you up now.
Yeah.
So all these things that we're talking about, digitizing the profile, social media, website, media appearances, they're looking you up on the computer. It's not just word of mouth anymore. It's not just, oh, I heard about someone locally.
Yeah. They want to, it's a reaffirmation. So a lot of this, you know, on the brand side is reaffirming who you are, also making people comfortable. Right, that this is not a Bernie Madoff situation. This is a solid individual who knows what he's doing. He's an expert. So I think a lot of the things you're talking about speak to that.
Yeah.
And that's a reason to have your awards displayed and all that. It's a third party affirmation that you know what you're doing.
Yeah. A couple more items on the branding side, and we'll get to the build. Financial literacy, webinar events. These are all great things that people can do now in a digital world.
And that speaks to the expansion of you were talking about the Zoom stuff, and you can have a chef come on and do a virtual class for your clients. You know, I've heard great stories about that. And wine tastings.
Yeah.
Send the clients a couple bottles and then do a tasting there, have an expert talk about it. So
In fact, since you mentioned, I'm going to jump down a couple items. Diversity of content, very important. Not everyone, not your entire list or your entire universe wants to hear always about market information and investment news. Put in celebratory events. How's your team growing? Are you getting involved in, like you said, certain social events or a fun run for a good cause? Recognize certain heritage months. These are all things that people want to connect with on a more personal level, and it helps with the branding and the communication side. The other part was video in general. Video use, for some reason, still is not as embraced by our industry as much as it should be. With all of the turnkey options and the fact that this has become a lot less expensive. I mean, we're doing something that, not having a big video crew behind us here, which normally would cost thousands of dollars to do. You can do it now, and you can have an editor.
We literally invest hundreds of dollars in this program every year.
And it looks like a $20,000 video at
Sure
the end of the day. So that's the thing. So make sure that you're leveraging video. People can listen to podcasts or videos or audio versus having to read something at night up in bed or driving in the car, etc. So not video in the car, but you understand what I'm saying.
I get it.
And of course, the part of it, which I always say when we talk to advisors, is always evaluate and redefine. There's nothing wrong with shifting focus if you have to abandon a particular strategy. Pick something you like too. If you don't like media appearances, I wouldn't do that. If you like social media, focus there.
I so agree. And by the way, that goes for things like we just mentioned, the wine dinner stuff. If you don't like wine, don't do a wine dinner.
Right.
Find something you're passionate about. We always find, and Greg and I have been sort of running firms, building firms. You hire a nice advisor. He's got nice clients. Nice people tends to hang with nice people. It also means if you really like sports, and a lot of your clients are like sports, you tend to attract like-minded people. So do things that you don't try to fake it, because faking it comes across.
It doesn't. You're exactly right. Having a passion for it will come out in the video. So I like to focus on the build list. So that's the brand
That's the
side.
branding side. Now,
Branding and communication.
and these are the top 10 things for
Yeah, from again, my experience and talking to advisors and hearing more and more of what they want, as well as what's working. The first thing I would say is, obviously this goes without saying, define your goals. Am I looking
doesn't
to
go without saying, because it's a basic, people jump, my issue with it is advisors jump into marketing. Okay, I know it. I'm just going to do it. Structure it.
Yeah.
If you don't have structure, you don't have an outline. It's just going to be all over the place. And you've seen that, and I've seen that, where it's just a mess. Oh, I'm doing a lot of marketing, and you look at the stuff they're doing, and it's completely all over the place, not related to each other. It's one thing here, one thing there. It doesn't work very well.
Okay, so I misspoke when I said it goes without saying. So you're right, Tony, but you want to define what your goals are. Do I want to be efficient or more 80-20 pairing, or do I want to be growing the assets or the relationships? So define what your goal is before you get into this build strategy. The second item I would say on the build strategy that's extremely important is pay very close attention to how you're using your website. When it comes to all things digital, whether you're branding, communicating, or building, the website ultimately is going to become your hub. Now, again, some people aren't, all that much of a tech expert. Leverage the resources your firm has, or utilize an outside consultant.
So you can tell when you go to an advisor's website whether they care about it, have paid attention to it, have done anything to make it unique, right? You tell right away.
Yeah.
When you get there. So by not paying attention to your website, or just using completely, pre-made, pre-packaged stuff and cut and pasting it on there, that's a problem.
Yeah, exactly right. And there's some things that, when it comes to the website side of the equation, whether you're on the branding side or building side, you've got to make sure it's professional.
Yeah.
It's up to date. It's not good having stale content on your website. People have to have a reason to return. So post new information. Give them a reason.
That's critical, right?
It is. It absolutely is.
Which means you got to have something to say.
Which means you have to have something to say or something to present,
right,
in some ways. And it doesn't have to be your language, but you could say, well, listen, we want to have a newsletter that our team puts together or the firm puts together, and we want to make sure that that's being communicated in the right time, right fashion with the right people. So I would say pay close attention to the website. Invest if you have something that's out of the box, great. But I would say this is one area you want to invest something in.
Definitely worked. I agree. You tell from a glance. That's where everybody goes. So they look it up on the phone, but they do go to the website. That's everything is leading to the website. So if it's bad, it's bad.
Yeah, the third item on my chart is actually kind of combined with some campaigns. Utilize landing pages. For those of you who don't know what landing pages are, the website is the website. That's got your content. Some things can be right there on the homepage. Other things can be, deeper into the website. But a landing page typically is a hidden page, but it's a redirect. And obviously we all have contact us, and it's a, send in your information or write to us via the contact us page. But a landing page is going to be a specific page that's typically run from a social media or a Google ad campaign that will drive people to a particular area and show them a one-page type of description as to what the agenda is. Is it a short video?
Right.
Is it an infograph or a small quiz to qualify someone? But it does go into the, contact us or set an appointment, but it gives them a little bit more information versus just a blank contact us page.
Yeah, important, because I can't think of how many advisors, that's a simple thing that they just absolutely don't do.
And again, websites and landing pages, the nice thing about this is when we talked about the goals and defining the goals, we're going to get to this at the bottom of the top 10 list, but it's extremely important. I can't emphasize this enough to track your results. Long gone are the days, Tony, of, you and I've been in this business 30 plus years, when people used to say two things that always frustrated me. Marketing was always throwing a bunch of spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks. The worst one, the one I really don't like is when people would tell me, yeah, I spend $10,000 on marketing. I know 5,000 of it works and 5,000 of it doesn't work. So I just don't know which is which. And that means you don't have a good tracking mechanism. Right. Everything is digitized today. I can find out on my website, on my landing pages, on my campaigns, how people are getting there. Where are they getting directed from? How long are they on a particular page? What social media posts are they looking at?
There's no excuse today to not know.
There isn't. Everything is digitized. From a branding to a building campaign, I could put together a scorecard and use multiple places to find all the data.
But the flip side of that is passive marketing on its own doesn't do that much. I mean, it's great to have all that stuff, but you still got to drive people to it. You still got to, work on it, and you still have to make sure that when they get there, it's good. There's something that's worthwhile.
Exactly.
So.
And so here's the next one: target marketing campaigns or digitized search ads. These are the ones that are my favorite. And again, depending on which type of platform you're operating on, whether it's a bank or independent or some hybrid, I would suggest looking into whatever your firm offers or what's available. And I always give this example because not a lot of people know what this is. When we were building out Stewart Partners, Jeff Gagno, one of the partners at the firm, was driving from this Virginia area up to New York. And someone had asked us, can you bring an erg on your trip up here? Because I ordered one from out in the DC area. Well, I didn't know what an erg was at the time, Tony. So I had to look it up, ERG. It's one of these big rowing machines. It's very heavy, it's bulky, and Jeff and I literally would be scrunched up against the steering wheel driving. And I said, listen, no, I can't do it, but thanks. But I clicked it and whatever. The next 3 days, erg sales, erg training, erg parts, everything, erg. Well, the same concept, the same digitized marketing works in our world. If someone's going through a divorce or a loss of a loved one, and you're running an ad for financial advisor consultation for recently divorced people or estate planning, your ad will show up in certain search, whether it's social media, whether it's Google. And this is a way to connect to a market, like we said before, cold calling and hoping to get someone in a good day or good moment, that not eating dinner. Long gone are those days. Now we have direct and more distinct ways of connecting with people.
And those
look into these.
Yeah. How do they find out how to place those ads and how they work?
So there's really 3 types of marketing. You got search ads, you've got social media marketing, and Google ads. So you have to kind of do some research and digging. Social media is probably the easiest to talk about because everyone's familiar with it. You can go run campaigns, whether it be LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, and you can run some of these search ads to find or look up on basic criteria what you want to advertise or what you want to promote. And it works. As much as people like to discount it and say, no, I'm going to still go on the word of mouth. There's nothing wrong with that. But digitize prospecting and ads these days and this day and age work.
I think that what's interesting is people always ask me, should I be on radio or do a TV show? And I'm like, my experience has been for 40 years that you don't get clients out of doing TV shows. It's good for your existing client. It can help you prospect on your own using the videos as sort of a third-party affirmation, but you get kooks come out of the woodwork. But social media is a lot more targeted and it's a better result versus a sort of mass market. So,
Yeah, and the media, it does have its
I'm talking about
benefit.
Yes,
Yes.
but just my experience has been always these guys that get on radio, they get a lot of $2,000
Sure.
IRAs. You're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
getting
yeah.
a $5 million guy's not calling you up.
No, that's true.
But he
That's
may
true.
respect what you've done, and when you call him, you could show. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The other item I want to talk about very quickly is the email and newsletter campaign manager. I know this is kind of dancing between the branding and communications is also the building, but you can get redirect campaigns and people forwarding your information to other folks, especially if you've got something like a client advisory board, which I didn't really spend too much time on the branding side, but client advisory boards for folks who are looking to say, I want to take my model that extra step.
Mhm.
It's not always your biggest clients that will help you with this, but you could put together a list of people on the client advisory side, your best relationships and say, and let down your guard. What do we do well? How do you describe me to someone? Do you just tell me I'm your stock guy, or do you actually lay out some of the things we do? But more importantly, open up to questions like, what can we do better? What are we not offering? And this is a great way to define on your brand and your communication strategy what we could be doing.
Yeah, and I think people who are willing to do that and do that kind of work for you, they become super friends because they can. People who like to do that like to give you referrals. They enjoy it. You know what I mean? And those are the people. You might have a great client, he never gives you a referral. They just don't want to. But you're good ones that you cultivate them. And I think the advisory board's wonderful.
It is, especially when they could say and tell what you do the way you want them to.
Right.
So the emails and newsletters are very, very beneficial on both the communications and the business building side. I don't want to miss the center of influence campaigns. It's always good to be a part of groups, organizations. You definitely want to network. There's nothing wrong with that. That's still, it's tough to digitize unless you can get involved in some of their website activity. But
volunteer for a group.
Yeah.
And if you're hopefully you're in a group where there's not a million financial advisors, and maybe you can give a talk on,
The nice thing about these groups and these organizations is depending on what your firm offers, you can get them involved in alliance programs.
Yeah.
And this is a big deal when you start looking at another growth stream or another growth opportunity in today's marketing is, how do I create multiple streams of revenue for what I'm doing? Does my firm, does my entity, or does my independent structure allow me to have, RIA plus broker dealer benefits? Do I have mortgage revenue? Do I have or lending revenue? Do I have fee for advice,
Right.
hourly rates, et cetera, et cetera. So you can have a number of options that become available to create these multiple revenue streams. Again, all this could be digitized, even with the center of influence campaigns. Those PAP programs, sometimes you can even share revenue.
Yeah.
You still have those
That's great
programs out
stuff.
there.
Yeah.
So finally, at the end, I think the last thing I mentioned is obviously just the tracking and the measured results. As I said to you earlier, Tony, everything digitized can be measured. You could create your own hit list of things that you want to measure and make sure you're driving towards a goal. You may have to abandon some, you may have to refocus some of your capital in other areas, but pay very close attention and have some sort of scorecard.
Yeah.
Because if you're not measuring your short-term wins, even your long-term wins are going to be harder and harder to articulate, discuss, and reevaluate. At the end of the day, I really don't care if we're talking about branding or building. It all comes down to this. Try to think ahead of what the industry is doing. I got to tell you all the time, we're thinking about How does, what does live streaming events look like? How can we offer after hours client support? What do infographics and quizzes and client interaction mean to our marketing agenda? How does the metaverse translate into our world? You think about, the experience where people are gaming and stuff like that. Well, it's also translating into universities and classroom training. Well, financial literacy and podcasts and webinars all could be part of that experience as well. So try to think further down the road and always have that innovate, bold type of look and explore things that other people haven't explored. So I appreciate that.
I think this is great. Really appreciate it. I think, what's interesting is what some firms like Stewart are doing, to bring this to their, advisors. I think it's great. Again, it didn't really happen, before. And I know the world has changed. So advisors, you got to be on top of it and find out what your firm will allow and not allow, or call Greg and figure out what it is he can tell you about it. So
what I find very fascinating in the last couple of years, Tony, and you and I talked about this before, is people are moving from I didn't know we could do this to I heard we can toy with this option or play with this product or service.
Right.
And it's getting people thinking more about marketing and building and those types of strategies. So I think there is a definite movement within the industry too.
Well, I feel it for sure. So, and people want to know how, because it seems like there's a magic bullet somewhere, but obviously there's a lot of hard work involved with all of it. So thank you, Greg. Appreciate you being here. Buddy.
Thank you, Tony.
Good
Great
to see
seeing
you.
you again.